I'm going to ask you the same question I've asked everybody. How'd you get started in this wacky music business?
Well, I mean, I think it really went back to when, I saw some of my first live shows. Live music to me has just inspired me, and I was going to Cal Poly Pomona out in Pomona, and looking back, and it was about an hour from LA, and we used to come in as a group. A bunch of us used to come out and see shows in LA, and I just fell in love with live music. And it wasn't like I went to school for it. It was just we started putting on shows at our campus and realizing we had a PA system, and bands were looking for a spot. There was no Glass House, there was no Fox Theater, and we could offer them a place to come play. So it was funny at Coachella last week seeing the Violent Femmes up there on the main stage, because I remember we paid them $100 to come to our college campus, and they showed up an hour late, and there was like 16 of us watching them, and 2 of those 16 were me and Paul Tollett, who does run Coachella. So we had kind of a laugh about like how 30 years later, basically, we're all still doing this, and we've actually figured out how to do this.
For the folks in the story, were you involved on the concert committee there at Cal Poly Pomona?
Yeah, it was a loose group of people. It was just a loose group, and I was also vice president of the ski club. And I was on the ski team, and there was no fraternity system or anything at that school. So the ski club was a big social thing, and we started throwing concerts. And this is before Twitter and anyway, there was no internet back then. There was no internet back there. So somehow we were, I would throw these events, and a lot of times it was in the process of renting a fraternity house, because the fraternity houses were used to dealing with police and those kind of things coming to their houses. And I'd put it in the backyard, and I started to make connections with bands like Fishbone and those kind of bands. And we would do like 5 bands, $5, all the beer you could drink. And then when we ran out of beer, we'd bail. The police would show up. We'd come back, pay the fraternity house a little bit of money, and the bands, and hang out with the bands, and we'd always have one last keg of beer and drink some beer with the bands.
It's funny, when I started the concert business doing college booking, and I can remember we have one of our ace interns here, Cody Romness, is a Trojan. I almost graduated from USC, but I had a couple fun nights booking talent for the fraternity bashes over across the street, from the Shrine Auditorium. And I'll say this, those guys always found a way to get that beer truck to pull up, and they had the cops very under control over there at SC. Look, Cody's gone, yeah, we still do all that stuff here, We
still do it with the beer trucks. I always say now you have to be a little careful, because there's a lot more laws and things. Because we used to get around, and they say, well, you can't, give beer away. Or so we would charge, you couldn't sell beer. So we would, we'd sell the mug for $5 and give the beer away for free. And we'd get Killian's Red was a big company that would sponsor us, so we'd sell the mugs for $5 and everyone would have free beer.
Well, some things haven't changed much, folks. It's funny you mentioned the Violent Femmes. I was watching them out of Coachella this weekend too, thinking about those early days. Fishbone, God, I haven't thought about them in years. But I was thinking that the first time I booked the Red Hot Chili Peppers was at the country club out in Reseda, and it was $1,000. And truth be told, they were a horrible band back then. Lots of energy, no songs, and they've come a long way.
Yeah, we had some stories about them and how I got into skateboard when I was doing a lot of skateboard events. But one of the first times was at the Vision Skate Escape, which was filmed. We had done the Chili Peppers in the Northridge cafeteria on a Wednesday night, and I was doing the skateboarding event on a Saturday. And I paid him $250 to come down and play on top of the skate ramp. At the end of the skate contest. So I don't think that ticket was more than $250 per person.
Oh God! I suspect they're making a bit more than $250 or $500, even though Kevin and I have probably both been accused of being cheap when it came to booking bands here. Let me ask you something else. When I was starting off in the business, notwithstanding the bad attitude of my friends at Avalon with regard to Golden Voice, I had some wonderful mentors there, Bob Geddes and Brian Murphy, and people that kind of showed me a way around the business and had some belief in me. Did you have mentors in the business early on that helped shape your mentality about the business?
I looked at it, I think, for me it was, learning, about Bill Graham, obviously about always trying to give extra value to the fan. It wasn't about just, he did very well financially, everyone knows, but he was a smart business, but he always knew, give the fans a little something extra. And when you really look about Gary Tovar, one of our great characters of the LA music scene.
The founder of Golden Voice.
Founder of Golden Voice, and biggest pot distributor on the whole West Coast at the same time. But
good times back in that kitchen, folks.
But Gary was, when you look back at it, and I look back now, just what he taught us about, there was always an extra band, and being that stage manager, it was always like, we had 4-band bill and 2 bands would show up and said, Gary said we could play. That's kind of how I am. There's going to be always something extra. And Gary would always try to give the fans something extra. And you think about it, Paul Tollett mentored under him.
Yeah.
And he's always trying to give something extra at his festivals and trying to do it a certain way. So when you really look back, you know, I didn't know at the time he was going to be a mentor.
Yeah.
I'm sure we had a lot of bad habit mentors. I look back now and go, probably a lot of things I hopefully do better in life. I had a lot of bad mentors then. But people like Bill Graham and Gary Tovar will give a lot of credit to what we did.
One of the reasons we started this program was some attempt to connect people with folks like yourself that, you know, have had a lot of experience and that can share some of that with people that are just starting, because it really is difficult getting started in business.